Go ahead.
What's going on, mi gente? It's Crispin Valentin with the Global Land Factor Podcast. Get ready for this great episode that we have coming up. We have a mortgage professional that has almost 30 years in the business. He's going to break down a lot of information for us so you can be better informed about purchasing a home, your options, especially in this market at this day and age. If you've been curious about buying a home, or if is everything confusing to you, we're going to help you out with this amazing episode that we have coming up here in just a few minutes. So stay tuned. Welcome you and all to another episode of the Global Latin Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Crispin Valentin. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it very much for another amazing episode. There's so many options and we appreciate very much that you took the time to be here. Since you're already here, go ahead and hit the subscription button. For all the people on audio, will give us a 5-star review. We appreciate it very much. We're moving up in the numbers and it's all thanks to you, so thank you. An amazing episode today because we have a mortgage professional, residential mortgage loan officer, also known as an LO for, I believe it's still Sunwest Mortgage Company, Inc.
Right.
Correct?
Still with Sunwest.
Which is family owned for over 42 years, a direct lender. He's also a podcaster and more. We have Sal or Salvador Villalobos in the house. Hi.
That's right.
How you doing?
Great, Crispin. And yourself?
I'm amazing. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Feels weird being on the other side of the mic.
I know, because you're a podcaster too.
Right.
We'll talk about that here shortly.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. It is last minute. I like to be transparent, but I appreciate the time that you came here. Normally you are suited and booted, but it is a Friday. But you look amazing. Thank you very much for being here.
And just to let you know, I appreciate you telling me that it was last minute, because I am always scrambling at the last minute to find a replacement.
Absolutely.
And I know it's challenging. So
yeah, so you can relate.
I can definitely relate. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. We're going to go ahead and start out with the segment that I like to call Preguntas al Chile.
Preguntas al Chile.
Questions. If you have not subscribed to the channel, once again, go do so you can check out the amazing graphics that Carlos put together. Here we go. ¿Estás listo?
Listo.
Preguntas al Chile. ¿Tacos o tortas?
Tacos y tortas, pero la mayoría, tacos.
Tacos. Okay. Corn tortilla, flour tortilla.
Tacos are only with flour. Corn tortillas.
Corn tortillas, yes. Gorditas o sopes?
Flaquitas.
Plaquitas, okay. Mexican coca o jarrito?
Un jarrito. ¿Pero cuál jarrito?
¿De qué sabor? What flavor?
No, I thought jarrito con piquete o...
Oh, no. Las bebidas de soda.
La bebida.
The soda. Yeah. ¿Cuál te gusta? Do you like the Mexican coca o de jarrito?
The Mexican coca.
Mexican coca.
Yeah.
Okay. Agua de Jamaica, horchata o tamarindo?
Oh, man, you said tamarindo. That's a hard... between horchata and tamarindo... I'll go horchata.
Yeah, I like hibiscus, the Jamaica.
Yeah.
You know, it was years before I realized hibiscus was Jamaica.
Yeah, same here.
Like one time IHOP too. I never knew that IHOP was International House of Pancakes.
Oh.
Until I was driving one day and I saw it on the side of a building.
Right.
It said International House of Pancakes. And like,
you had an epiphany. Whoa.
Like, oh, that means IHOP. I swear. Just like the hibiscus.
Right. But the Jamaica I remember because my mom used to make it for the summers and she would put a lot of ice in it, and that was our favorite drink. So that's why. But from flavor, tamarindo, but for the memories and the taste as well, Jamaica.
I love Jamaica.
Yeah.
I like Jamaica. Salsa verde, salsa roja. Do you do any spice?
Yes. Salsa verde.
Salsa verde.
Well, depending on what I'm eating, right? Depending on what you're eating. Not everything. It's just like wine.
For your tacos?
My tacos, depende de qué. Pero de cabeza o de lengua, verde.
Verde.
Y si es al pastor, rojo.
I see. I know how to make good combination.
Right.
Menudo o pozole?
Los domingos en la mañana, menudo. Pozole para festejar.
Para festejar? Nobody's ever been so specific as the reason why when is an appropriate time to have either one. Not the appropriate, but it will be a more recommended time for you to have them. So that's pretty cool. Churros o flan?
Flan.
Valentina, Tapatio, or Cholula, or Tabasco hot sauce?
Valentina porque María, back to memories.
Yeah, of course.
En México, cuando íbamos de vacaciones o íbamos para las fiestas de diciembre, íbamos a visitar a María en una taquera enfrente de su casa y lo que ofreciera eran con los tacos era la Valentina.
Oh, really? So she was in her taco stand. She would offer would offer Valentina.
Valentina,
Really?
and we used to go there all the time, every summers, and then during the winter break. And then we just and I didn't go for a few years. And my mom went, and she says, "Llévale, take this to Salvador." She gave me the biggest bottle of Valentina. So,
Was it the red label, the black label?
black label,
Spicy.
the spicy.
Fire one. Okay. The conchitas, the pastries. Do you like the brown ones, the white ones, or the pink ones?
The white ones.
The white ones.
Right.
Okay. And this is just a fun one, random,
Right.
Nothing to do with food, but a conspiracy theory that you can almost guarantee when you heard it, like, that has to be true.
Pandemic.
It's a
Because everybody made so much money during that.
all right.
All of the ultra rich made gobs of money, and they were like somewhat preparing from what I feel, right?
Like it just fell in their lap and it was too easy for it. It's unfortunate for the people that did lost their life.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy for the part of the ones that were already ready for whenever things happen.
Exactly.
That is,
yeah.
I can see that.
That's another show.
I can see that being true. Definitely. Whenever you hear the word Latino, Latina, or Latinx, or Hispanic, what first comes to mind when you hear that word?
Pride.
Pride. Okay. And do you consider yourself Latino? Do you care if they call you Latino? Do you prefer to be called something different?
Human.
Absolutely.
I don't like to be categorized, but I am Latino because I come from a Latin American country. I am Hispanic because I speak Spanish. You don't have to be, you can be a Latino and not a Hispanic.
Yeah.
So that's a big misnomer out there where they try to define you based on Hispanic or Latino, and it can be completely two different things.
Absolutely. You're right. Absolutely. Thank you for the explanation. We explained to it before the reason, and you can be one and not the other, or you can be both, and just depending on different things. But I appreciate you elaborating on that part. Now, let's go ahead and get started on the interview. Once again, you're a mortgage professional. Thank you very much for being here. Just touch up a little bit on your upbringing. So are you of Mexican descent?
Yes, Mexican-American, first generation. Both my parents came over from Mexico. From my understanding, they got married in January of 2000. I wish. I would be a lot younger. In 69 and 68, and then in 69, they moved out here, and that's where I was born. So, in not here, but in Chicago. And so that's where it started.
Right.
And one of the reasons I, grew up, always knew my heritage, my culture, because my parents, right? And first language is English. I'm Spanish. Within the years, English became my primary language, just, because of immersion.
Yeah.
So there came a point where when I first moved out, and it wasn't trying to be, like I can't speak Spanish anymore, but the amount of Spanish I spoke at the time was very limited because I had moved out of my house and I was engulfed in the English, or immersed into the English language, where there was so they would go weeks on end that I wouldn't speak Spanish.
Wow.
So it wasn't a question of not trying to speak Spanish, just there wasn't the opportunity. Then when I would call my mom, she would say, "No te hagas payaso," because I would forget a word, and I was like, "Wait, how do you say that word? How do you?" And she's like, "Don't be a clown, just say the word." And I'm like, "Well, no, it's not that I'm trying to be funny.
This doesn't come to mind.
It's not coming to mind."
Yeah.
So I became more purposeful in trying to, even if I had to go to a Mexican restaurant just so I can order in Spanish and do what I needed to do, right? So that I wouldn't lose, because you can't lose it.
Yeah.
So, or not lose it, but just not practice it.
Do you find it in your profession that it really is a necessary skill for you to be able to communicate not only in English but Spanish too?
Definitely.
And help you out?
Right. Unfortunately, in that one job, I didn't have that option. It was all English. But now, fast forward a few years, I got into got into banking, and because of my skin color and ethnicity. I was placed automatically into a Latino community bank. I don't think they even asked if I spoke Spanish. They just, you look the part,
Just assume.
just go. So, yeah. And my Spanish just kicked in because I came back and, I was immersed into the Spanish community again. Right. So more of my time was in Spanish than in English. And in that location, I was exposed to not just Mexican, but Puerto Rican, Peruvian, Ecuadorian, Argentinian. I mean, it was just from all parts of Latin America. Right. So I got to pick up on a lot of words and
not all Spanish is equal.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, you can say something to in Mexican. Mexican Spanish. Something can be translated completely incorrect in another language, and they may get offended by what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, in the mortgage, not offensive, but in the mortgage, in Mexico, we say enganche which translates into down payment. Mm-hmm. When you go to Puerto Rico, you don't say enganche, you say el pronto.
Pronto.
Right. So, and that actually has helped me throughout my career because now I can relate to different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And try to use the appropriate words.
And they can understand you when I be left man, it's not going to meet my needs if he can't even communicate with me.
Right.
The
funny thing is, I was living in a city in Rockford, outside of Chicago. I mean, it was called Rockford, outside of Chicago, and the iPhone just came out, right, in 2005, and I bought the iPhone, and I'm sitting there at my desk, and a young lady who is Mongolian. Somebody came, hey, does anybody know Mongolian or whatever? We have a client that, a customer that walked in and she needs assistance opening an account. Right. And I'm like, well, I don't speak Mongolian, but I have a translator on my phone that has Mongolian. So, le luchamos, right? We tried it out. And, she was very happy. And before I knew it, I was helping the entire Mongolian community. And they would come to me not just for banking or mortgage needs, but just when they had questions. Wow. So, because nobody was offering that service. And it's not that I knew the language. It's just that
had the technology,
and we tried it out. And I'm like, and I would tell them, this is not going to be flawless, and I would, whatever the word was. And it would take us 2 or 3 times the amount of time that we normally would take. But, it was about helping the consumer there.
I had an engineer here, a lady engineer, a woman engineer, Latina. And she was telling me how much of our troubleshooting skills that we have as far as Latino, how much we are really good at figuring things out and troubleshooting and getting things figured out. And that's part of the example.
But why do you think that is?
Because of our ancestry.
Right.
Because we come from Mayan Aztecs and they were really good at building and figuring out different things. Even to this day, all the workers that you see, they figure a way. Right. A lot of the times you might see us being rigged kind of like in a Mexican way, but it works.
It works, yeah.
It works. And it might not be the standard, maybe a little bit tipping toe and coding, but at the end of the day, it does the job that needs to be done.
And it's just in our culture.
Yeah.
It's just in our culture that, you got to find a way, like you say. Yeah. I mean, my dad, I'm very impressed. Shout out to my dad if he's watching. Mm-hmm. And if he's not, I'm going to make him watch. Very limited education, worked the fields. His mom, she was a single mom, that he grew up without a dad, and he had brothers and sisters, but they were all older than him. And so he was always with my grandmother, and he worked the land. So, but he did go to school, but didn't go to the university, or I don't even think he finished high school. He did later on, but not at the time. So, I don't know. This guy's a genius when it comes to figuring things out. Mm-hmm. He's worked on cars, changed transmissions, changed motors, completely remodeled the house and did it the right way. Mm-hmm. he built a shed. But when I mean built a shed, he had me go to at the time it was called a Handy Andy, similar to a Home Depot.
Yeah.
And he had me get almost 1,000 pounds of concrete
Oh, wow.
and a bunch of more rocks. So we're out there and I say we, my brother, myself, and my dad, and we're mixing the concrete, you know, and he did one of the strongest foundations for any shed, and he had all the angles. He brought electricity in there. He put in like custom windows.
Mm-hmm.
He had the angles. I'm like, where did you learn it? He's like, oh, I was reading it. I read it in a book. I'm like,
What?
oh, so I thought you were just looking at instructions. He's like, no, I was learning as. I'm like, wow. But that's just the way his mind works. I mean, the guy, for me, that's genius.
That is
because, yeah, no formal education when it comes to that type of work, electricity. I mean, you name it. I mean, I'm just like, I call him up for stuff.
I got shocked one time, sticking my finger in a freaking refrigerator that was missing the bulb as a little kid, because I came from Mexico.
Right.
So I don't know what I was thinking, but ever since then, I never touched electricity, not let alone just trying to build and work with it.
Right.
No, just super nervous. That is pretty genius as far as he's able to figure it out.
You reminded me of a story. I had bought a 3-unit building, and with a partner of mine, and we were doing a lot of renovation to this building, he and I, and I was up on a ladder. I wasn't sure if the wires were live or not. I thought I turned it off. The house had the wiring all over the place, and I had to replace the plate and part of the connection in there.
Yeah.
So I was 100% positive that it wasn't live. And as I'm going to touch it, my phone rings, but I didn't know it was my phone, so I got scared, right? Because I thought I touched something,
Man.
and it was my dad. And I told him. So, yeah, he shocked me.
He shocked you, but man, the good thing you didn't get shocked.
Right.
Okay, so by any chance, did they ever share their journey over here back in '69? How did they get here? Was it illegally? Did they cross? Why they decided to leave Mexico and come to the States?
My dad did come once illegally, before he went back in 1969 to marry my mom, in 68 to marry my mother.
Mm-hmm.
So he was out here for about a year or so, and he needed to raise enough money so that he can pay for the wedding and do whatever else. And he already secured a job, got his everything taken care of as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Then they came over because my mom. Well, let me go back further. My mom and my aunts and my grandfather, two of my aunts, my mom, and my grandfather had come over from Michoacan to Chicago. They had a family member that lived in Pilsen, and they were, they came here in the winter. So you're coming from Mexico where it's warmer. I wouldn't call it warm because it's not warm in December.
Yeah.
But
it's not Chicago.
It's not Chicago. It was so cold that they weren't prepared for it.
Yeah.
So you have these 3 young ladies who were probably 16, 17, and 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then my grandfather. And they would work. And all the money that they would earn, and they were very humble in their accommodations and what they would spend money. But all of the money was to go pay off a house that they bought in Mexico. Oh, wow. So they finally did that. So my mom had some knowledge of what was going on here. That's when they had the rude awakening of the cold. So I'm getting my stories mixed up. Mm-hmm. So then my dad and my mom got married in 68. They moved out here in 69. I was born. So the reason they came out, they moved to the United States was for a better living.
Yeah.
They wanted to start a family. My dad wouldn't be able to give her the life that he wanted my mother to have, his wife. and his children. So that's one of the reasons he moved here to the United States, as most families do, because in some cases there's limited means or limited opportunities for somebody to progress. And his dream was always to go back to school, and he did go back to school, and he did accomplish that. But
it's not for lack of trying, because they really do. Like, for example, my dad, he had planted some crops. He had just recently got married to my mom, and they planted some crops, hoping that they can profit out of the crops. Bad hailstorm ruined the crops.
Right.
So he wasn't able to, harvest those crops. So he had to find a way. There was no work around the area. He made his way to the United States. But at that time, illegally, now he's good.
Right.
But he gave it an effort to make it work. But he just, he couldn't do it.
Right. So, I mean, once we establish ourselves and we want, how can I say? Once we have a dream, we shouldn't let anything stop us. Right. If we have a dream of having a family, having their own home, and having them go to school, and maybe that may not be the opportunity where you're at, then you have to make some different changes. You can't be afraid. That was a ballsy move on their part, because, leaving your entire family, they were the youngest kids of their family. So, not saying anything wrong about that, but usually the younger ones are a little bit more reserved in some of their actions. At least that's what I think. And no, they went for it on their own, and it was just, I mean, I admire my parents for the struggles that they went through, and I saw them. Just everything my dad went through, and I remember him. He bought his. We lived in Chicago. They rented a home. I mean, they rented a home, and then from there, put enough money together, and that's something I would like to share. But the end result is that they bought their home, and he got closer to work and got us out of a more challenging neighborhood into a little bit more secure neighborhood.
That's nice.
And one winter, the car wasn't working. We had 2 cars, but one of them wasn't working as well. And my mom would work the second shift. My dad would work the first shift. My mom would come in later, but then she would take us to school. So he would leave the car for her, so that while he fixed the other car. But I remember him, he could have said, well, it's too cold, I'm not going to go to work. He had to walk from our house to his job, was probably 4 or 5 miles.
Wow. And
you're talking January in Chicago, and you have to go over an overpass to go to the factory.
Plus, they don't call it the Windy City just because.
No, and I mean, you're talking 20 below zero, and you're talking, windshields, the wind at 20, 30 miles an hour, and they didn't have the Gore-Tex as they do now. He would bundle up as best as he could, and he would go to work, and he did that for the most of the winter. So, it was not, it's too cold today, I have a responsibility, I have a family, I have kids, and I'm just very, I'm impressed. I am, I honor them, because, I mean, they did a lot.
I feel you in that 100%, because I feel like certain things that are a lot of immigrant parents that, I'm an immigrant myself. I became a citizen, but I could see 2 or 3 jobs that they have to do, and there was never a day that they were feeling sick or whatever. To this day, even my mom, when she has to go to work, even if she's feeling funny, she finds a way to be okay to show up.
Right.
And that's like, what? Like, stay home. Like,
Superwoman.
Go. Yeah. Exactly. Same thing for my dad.
Yeah.
Finds a way to just be hanging with the young dudes, still working. They go ask him for knowledge and how to do that to this day still. And that is amazing. That is amazing that they do that.
Yeah, I remember my dad working double shifts. He'd work all day Saturday, then he would work till like 12. he would start like at 4:30 or 5 on morning on Saturday. That's after already working a 40-hour week and some overtime in between. And on Saturday, he would go to work on Saturday morning, do like a shift and a half, and then be back to do 2 shifts on Sunday. So he would work on Sunday and then start the second shift. He'd work in the morning on Sundays, come home, sleep during the afternoon, start the third shift on Sunday night, and work all the way through the first shift on Monday.
My goodness.
But he did that for his family.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I have a lot of pride with that.
Absolutely. Before we get to how you got started in mortgage, one last question. So you were sharing with me a journey that you had, a health journey. Even though I appreciate you answering the questions, you eat pretty clean, and that is a decision that you made because something had happened. Is it okay if you share with us?
Sure. So at the time I was very slim. I was about a 52 jacket and a 50 waist. So far from slim. And I was actually asked to do a 5K. I'm not sure if it was meant as a joke or because I was pretty heavy. I didn't even own gym shoes. So and the name of the 5K was Si Se Puede. Yes, you can. And it was to help raise funds for the Dreamers Fund in Illinois. So I didn't even own gym shoes at the time because I did not exercise anymore. It was just I would eat and eat and eat and just a very sedentary life. I didn't do a whole lot. So I didn't have gym shoes. So I called my wife. It was a Saturday afternoon because I was flying back and forth between Texas and Chicago at the time quite often. And I'm like, you're going to see a charge for gym shoes.
Don't be freaking out. You're not getting, there's no fraudulent charge.
There's no fraudulent. Don't stop it. And she goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to do a 5K tomorrow morning. She's like, a 5K tomorrow morning? You're buying gym shoes tonight, so that means you haven't even trained for this. I'm like, I'll walk it if I have to. I'm like, I have at least have to try. The name is Si Se Puede, so yes, you can. That's one.
And then the reason for.
But from that, and somebody invited me to do that. I may not have asked somebody else that was in that kind of shape to do a 5K. It can feel almost as an insult in some cases. I didn't take it that way. I took it as everything's aligning, telling me to go forward with this. So I did it. I got up early in the morning, took the train into downtown Chicago, met with everybody. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it. Even if it takes me 2, 3, 4 hours to get it done, I'm going to do it. Even if I have to walk it. And doing so, I said, well, I'm going to give myself, I'm going to try to jog 20 yards, see how I can do that. And if I can, then I'll walk another 20 and just keep moving back and forth. Well, it didn't feel as bad. So I did the 20 and I actually went up to 50 yards and slowly. And then I just kept, alternating between walking and running. And before I knew it, 53 minutes later, I was like so proud of my accomplishment.
Oh, yeah.
That I finished it.
Minutes when you were shooting for maybe 3 hours, maybe the max.
Right. So I didn't, I wasn't, I gave myself enough of an out to go through the 3 to 4 hours. And I guess maybe deep down inside, I knew that I would be able to do it sooner than that. And so that led me to a new phase, because then all of a sudden the following day, I'm out of town, I'm by myself. So what do? I start scrolling through YouTube, and then I start seeing some interviews on Bullet Coffee and how Bullet Coffee, there was a gentleman from one of the major tech companies was holding a meeting in Hawaii, And he was bringing people from all over the world, from, you know, the United States, from Europe, from South America, from Africa, from Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And he noticed that everybody was drinking a bunch of coffee in the morning and their pastries. And they would keep going back for more coffee, while he had 1 cup of coffee in the morning. And that was holding him through. So he started doing more research on that, because then they would go to lunch, have a big lunch, and then they were lethargic after lunch, while he had more of a clean lunch. But what had helped him carry through was that coffee in the morning, how he prepared it. So he did more research into it. So now you hear about the MCT oil, right, for the coconut oil. So it's fat.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, let me try that. So I'm like, okay, so it's coconut oil, it's coffee, and then if you want the cream feel, then you put grass-fed butter.
Mm-hmm.
But I was older. I was in my late 40s, and I was like, well, I got to be careful. I'm not, you know, I was still pretty big, and I was like, I need to be careful. I can't be taking this much saturated fat. You know, I got to try to limit what I'm eating. So I switched that with coconut milk.
Mm-hmm.
So I started drinking that, and I would purposely try to walk more, take stairs, and the weight started coming down. So at the same time, I think I was doing intermittent fasting without even realizing I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And
About 16 hours or so?
Well, not at that time. At that time, you know, I would drink my coffee in the morning, and I'm not saying I was intermittent fasting. I'm just saying it was somewhat like
unintentionally.
Right.
We're real close to that window.
So in the morning, I would have my coffee at about 6 a.m, and the whole reason, I guess, for the bullet coffee, or how it works, is that, you know, when you drink coffee and you put sugar in it, you're hyped up in the morning. But then after it starts wearing out, you start crashing, because now the sugar has depleted, your energy's depleted, you're feeling a little lethargic. So what do? You go and fill up again. And I used to do that all the time, fill up and then put more sugar in it. So I'm like, well, I still want some sugar. So I got the raw unfiltered honey, put that in there. Instead of using butter, I would use the coconut milk. I would warm it up first, you know, baño Maria, almost,
okay.
so I wouldn't burn it up. So I would put that in there, and then the raw unfiltered honey, and I bought myself a tub of, and I didn't get the MCT oil, but I got myself a tub of the cold press coconut oil, organic coconut oil. They have a really good tub at
pricey too.
Yeah, the tub over at what is that? Costco with the orange lid.
Yeah.
And I started doing that, and people started noticing that I was losing a lot of weight, but I wasn't doing a ton of exercise. I was just eating right, and I was doing some exercise, but not my exercise was more walking. But then people would ask me, so how are you losing weight? I'm like, I'm eating more fat. Some lady's like, you're such a jerk. If you don't want to tell me, don't tell. I'm like, no, seriously, I'm eating more fat. What's going on is I'm drinking this coffee. This is the way I prepare it. And as I'm doing that, it is slowly, the fat is slowly feeding into my blood system. It's not going like sugar. It's slowly feeding into my blood system. So then I'm not as hungry. My mind is constantly being fed. My brain is constantly being fed, or it feels it's fed, because the fat releases a lot slower than sugar. So I can go from 6:30 in the morning to 12:30 or 1 without really having these hunger pains, or feeling lethargic, or having headaches, or being. So that's how I started that. That's how I started. Then I started doing more research on eating clean. You know, I was trying to lose weight, but I was really getting there. I joined a gym, still not doing it. And then I started doing more research. I saw a show on PBS, on one of these small community college, not PBS, but community college shows. And they were talking about this lady that she would exercise like there was no tomorrow, but she would not lose weight. She was still fat, by her words, not by my words. And I don't know how she got into the subject, but she stopped eating wheat. And after she stopped eating wheat, she started losing the weight. It started coming off. And I was like, And before that, my wife was we were doing the Atkins diet too, right? Oh, I'm feeling better we're going to do the Atkins diet. This is before me doing the race. We're going to do the Atkins diet, and it seemed to start to work. And I was eating a lot of, just protein, and it worked for a little bit, but then you plateau, and I wasn't feeling great because of all of the meat I was eating. So then, when I started doing this, eating cleaner, and I saw that show, I started doing more research on that. And I started researching that with wheat, they use glycomate. They spray glycomate on wheat, and they have been spraying glycomate on wheat. Wheat in itself is great. There's thousands of years of wheat products, and they were healthy because they were natural. Now they're genetically modified, GMO, right? So they spray glycomate is Roundup. So if you're out in your garden and you spray Roundup and there's a wind,
took away that from the market because they found out that it was causing cancer, right?
Right.
I'm mistaken.
I'm not sure if they took it out, but they're still.
They had to change something, and they would figure out the studies. If I'm not mistaken, if I recall correctly, they found that Roundup was the original formula was causing. They were linking it to cancer.
Right. So they modified that, as you said. But so glycomate, if you're spraying something that you're intending to spray, but there's a wind or a little breeze, and some of those droplets fall to a plant that you don't want, and it falls on a leaf, it kills. It's a systemic killer. It kills the entire plant to the root. So if they're doing that to the wheat, and it takes 20 years for it to eradicate from the ground, and they're spraying it onto your food that you're going to consume within the next harvest, right? Or after the next harvest. And by the time they bring it to the plant for it to be processed, so they drop the grain, and by the time it goes into the sleeve of the loaf, it's been maybe 2 to 4 hours. And when wheat should ferment or yeast should ferment for at least 48 hours, you're getting everything done in 4 hours.
Yeah.
What's it doing to our body? So people say, well, eat gluten-free. Well, gluten-free is good if you're allergic to gluten, but there's still wheat, but you need to read the instructions because the ingredients, because there's something else in there that may not benefit you. So they're substituting one thing for something else that may be worse for you. So you need to read all of your ingredients. So, sorry, I'm rambling on.
No, you're good.
But
this is important stuff that people might not realize, that they be having issues with their weight and they can't really figure out everything. They cleaned it up, but they still consuming wheat, and they don't realize that this is in the bread that they're consuming today.
Right. So the thing is, so I completely took wheat out. It was a progression. You can't do it right away. So I started eliminating wheat from my diet, started feeling better. Then I saw a show, and there was a professor from Upper Iowa, and she was one of the interviews there, and she was a professor of science, and she started to become debilitated. So much so that she ended up in a wheelchair. And this is a lady that would go out and had a ranch, and she would go out and ride the horses, feed them, bale the hay and all that. And here is this lady looking out her window because she can't walk, she can't do anything. So she's in a wheelchair just looking out, saying, this is how my life is going to end. And before that, she was like, well, if you look good, you'll feel good. Well, it wasn't helping her. She didn't look good. She didn't feel good. So she said, what's the use? So before that, she started deducting before she even got to the point of being in a wheelchair, she started feeling sick, and she started deducting or eliminating food, not eliminating food, but having her food tested to see if any of that was causing her issues.
Yeah.
No, nothing. So she continued as she was eating, and then she started eliminating the food. She's like, well, and then she started, you look good, you feel good. You look good, you feel good. She wasn't feeling good. She goes, I'm just going to stop putting makeup on. She started to feel better.
To makeup.
She started to feel better. She was able to move. She got her makeup tested, and it was her lipstick that was causing her issues.
Are you serious?
And you know what was in the lipstick? Wheat.
Wheat.
What does wheat have to do with lipstick? Well, it's such a cash crop that they have to incorporate in whatever they can, right? So I took that as, let me eliminate as much wheat as possible. And my son, who was very young at the time, every time he ate wheat, his stomach would puff up all the time. We removed the wheat, nothing. Bloated. I mean, poor kid, right? So we stopped giving him wheat. End of issue.
Wow.
Flat stomach, never inflated. The only time it would happen is if you would go to a birthday party and they would have cake. So fast forward, 12 years to the pandemic. We were ordering our food, right? So April, May, June, we were ordering food. We couldn't get everything we needed. We couldn't get a lot of the clean food we wanted. So since we would have birthdays during that time to celebrate, we bought what was available, the brands that you normally see there. So my wife would make the cake. And I would cringe at the idea of having to do, not because it was my kid's birthday or her birthday, but because I was going to have to eat cake. We already had to limit the kids as much as we could because we couldn't go out. So we weren't going to eliminate a birthday cake. So, and I could not eat it, right? Because I need to celebrate with them. But I knew within half an hour that my hands would start to hurt and they would start to crack. Before I stopped eating wheat, I couldn't do this. My hands were tight. If I would try to go into a room and tippy-toe to scare my kids without them turning around, they're like, Dad, we know it's you. Because my knees would creak. My ankles, my toes, everything, you would hear me coming because it would just crack. So it's all this inflammation that is caused with this wheat.
Wow.
So I'm not saying all wheat, if you get some organic wheat, but not everything they say is organic is organic.
It's marketing.
Yeah, it's marketing.
Yeah.
You got to do your research because it doesn't mean that we don't add anything that's not, but it doesn't mean that the ingredient that you got, they didn't add, that manufacturer didn't add something to that ingredient. Yeah, my company doesn't add anything to it, but the other company that you bought that ingredient from may.
So what is it a brand or what is it that you need to look for whenever you're looking for? Is just plain wheat, organic, truly organic wheat?
Yeah, I mean, just you need to do your research, right? Because if I tell you, Crispin, I have some black. I know you're trying to limit your wheat, but I have black peppered salted pistachios. What are the ingredients?
Should be just pistachios and some salt or something.
And pepper, right?
Pepper.
It's 100% natural. 100% natural, salted, peppered, black peppered pistachio.
That's it.
That should be it, right? And when you're looking at your ingredients, you should try to stick to 5 ingredients or less. That's the rule of thumb.
5
And whatever is the first ingredient it's what has the most. So when I was reading, and I didn't read the ingredients until one day I'm there at the table and I'm pouring myself some pistachios. And then I start seeing that it has wheat. And before I was still feeling a little bit more, tightness in my hands, but then I guess it doesn't have as much, but my body can tell.
But why are your pistachios have wheat?
Right. And why does vitamin B have to have wheat? And why does a lot of our foods that we eat have to have wheat? Because it's a cash crop. It's one of the biggest crops. So they don't want to, dispose of it. So they need to incorporate as many things that they can. So yeah, you don't hear my fingers creak, right?
Again, you know what? If anything, you were meant to be here is to help me out because I love bread and stuff like that. And I realize that sometimes I'll be feeling, you feel that?
And I just heard it too, crack a little bit. That was me. That was me walking. That was my...
Okay, so I think I know what my issue is. Or if I don't feel that there's an issue, there's a little bit of discomfort, but nothing crazy, But I think I realized I know what my issue is.
Well, it's just, and it's just life-changing when you start seeing that eating, clean meat and eating, just trying to, well, it's so much more expensive, Sal. Why do you spend so, well, my medical bills are lower because we don't go to the doctor.
What are you saying? Your life is not worth the extra little bit of something to keep you alive and keep you healthy?
Yeah, good quality life, right? And then if your body's not feeling good, your mind's not feeling good. So it's all encompassing. My kids, I mean, I'm the weird dad. Everybody calls it because, they'll call me, hey, they have birthday cake. Can I have some? I'm like, well, just, participate.
You know what bad it is. The sugar is so bad. I heard somebody said that it was funny. This is a rapper. He said that quitting sugar was harder than quitting cocaine. That's how bad it was. Yeah. That's how bad it is. And then he wasn't joking. It was like, sugar, I had a hard time for 30 days just letting it go all the way.
And that's exactly it. I mean, sugar, look at everything. Everything has sugar. And it's not just, you have your corn syrup. You have other sugars that aren't good for you. I don't care what kind of sugar it is, right? It can be cane sugar. It can be distilled sugar, right? It can be honey. Sugar. And sugar is not bad in a way. Refined sugar is, but processed sugar is not bad in a way. I mean, honey is not bad in a way because, like you said, the raw honey, unfiltered, they have a lot of good, if you get bit by ants, you put some on. One of the best ways to heal that.
Hello, quickly jumping in to let you know, I know that you are enjoying the show, so go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and now back to the episode.
My daughter, I mean, we do that. My wife's mother, also from humble beginnings, they did everything homeopathic. They didn't go to the doctors. Even they treat their dogs that way and everything. So honey in itself, great antiseptic, anti-inflammatory. And if you have allergies, you buy the honey from in the area that you live in, so that it can help you. But it's sugar. And so you need to be, careful of how much sugar you're taking. Right. And you have to read everything because cancer in itself feeds off sugar. So, and if you're drinking diet or eating diet or fat-free, you got to be careful because if it's fat-free, it probably has a lot of sugar. Yeah. So you need to read your guide. You need to read your ingredients, but be above that. Do your research and not just go to one source. Look at different sources. Don't just watch something on TV and say that's gold. No, do your research. Do 2, 3, 4, 5 different.
And if all have the same messages, then pretty much you can almost assure it's got to be true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least as close as you're going to get to it.
From when you started your journey, when you decided to switch and started to looking into all these things and eliminating the weeds, eliminating the sugar, how much was it that you began as far as your weight and how much did you lose now?
Great question. I don't want to know what I weigh. I haven't weighed myself. I have not weighed myself since 2000. Last time somebody told me my weight was in 2015.
And the reason why is because it's not about that.
It's not about how much. It's self-defeating. You may lose 5 pounds and then you gain 2, and you're like, oh my gosh, all that work to lose 5, and now I gain 2, and it might be muscle.
Mm-hmm.
You might be walking a little bit more. That weight may be muscle. And it's self-defeating. And why do I say that? Because that happened to me. Oh, I lost 7 pounds. Oh, now I gained 3. And then I would just constantly think in the negative of the 3 that I gained.
Yo-yo thing.
And it wasn't even the weight, So now I let my pants tell me when I need to lose a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the number is on weight. It's like, hey, my pants are fitting a little tight now, or the shirt.
Yeah.
It's maybe I should start. Yeah, I noticed I've been picking up on the carbs a bit. I always tell people, don't be afraid to go back. So, you stumbled. You didn't fail. Yeah. You just stumbled. It's a lifestyle change. You're not losing weight. The goal is not to lose weight. The goal is to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And your lifestyle consists not only of the food, but also of the drinks you drink, the exercise you make. You choose the your sleeping habits. Everything has to change because it's a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And it's not a lifestyle, and it can be a lifestyle for the worse or it can be for the better. You choose, right? It takes the same amount of days to create a good habit as a bad habit. They said 10 days to normally create a habit, either good or bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to struggle the first 10 days, but and you may do great for 3 months, and you'll have a week where, hey, it was holidays or whatever, or somebody's birthday and I overindulged. Well, that's fine. Tomorrow's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
But don't have a new day every day with the intention of right?
And you were telling me also that the bigger cause, the greater cause too, in addition to, was because you have a family.
I have a family.
You have a family
young family. Got married old, had young kids, older, and I couldn't run. I mean, I have pictures of myself where, I would, even though I was big, 52 waist, 52 jacket, I would still somewhat not run for long periods of time, but I would.
Pretty agile still.
Somewhat, yeah. So I'd have my daughter, I could barely put her legs around my neck, and I'm running with her, and during my son's soccer practice, or, but it was just very tiresome. I'm like, I need to be here for them.
Right.
And if I continue on this road, I'm not going to be here for them, and I'm going to be here for my wife, and somebody else is going to raise my kids. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I got to change this.
Yeah.
Not because somebody else is, if they do, may they be better for it. But I don't want that. I want to be the one. I want to be able to run with them, join them in their sports, bring them along my journey. And that's what we
daughter to the aisle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
So, I started eating healthier. I started bringing them on the journey of good health, the different lifestyle change. I remember my daughter being 5, and it's 6:30 in the morning, and we're running. No, 7:30 in the morning, we're running, and she's wearing a little Puerto Rican coquille shirt. She's my wife's half Puerto Rican.
Nice.
And we're running, and she's sweating. It's probably like 88 degrees in the morning because it was a hot morning, Saturday morning in Texas, and we're running, and I'm like, hey, and I'm running backwards, and she's running forwards, and I'm like, so Amanda, that's her name, why are you running? Because I want to eat pancakes. And I'm like, what kind of pancakes? Gluten-free, without any sugar. 5 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And today when I was at the doctor with her, the doctor said, oh, you can eat something. She's like, oh, fried chicken. He's like, are you eating any fried chicken? She's like, no, my dad won't let us eat fried chicken. And the doctor's like, well, pretty good. But he already knows that that's who I am, right? We try to eat healthy as a family because it's a necessity. It's not just, you're only strong as your weakest link. So in our family, everybody tries to eat healthy. Mm-hmm. I know they sneak some things here and there. I find it, and I'm like, come on, guys,
contraband.
Found it. But you know what? You can't limit them completely.
Yeah, absolutely. But at least you're giving them the foundation and the guidance to what is correct because there is, whether we want it or not, here in the United States, there's a major issue with weight, with intake of food that is not, it has no nutritional value whatsoever, that's not helping you. And you just enlightened me on that, the wheat part, that I need to really further look at my cabinets and really double check myself in that part. Because I do work out, I eat vegan, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that is the healthiest way if I have those particular things still in place and I'm not vigilant about those things. You heard my hand. You heard my hand.
Right.
There's something that I need to change. And it's not that it's like, as I mentioned, a discomfort or hurting, but I know that there's something that normally, this shouldn't be normal for me.
It begins. There's a beginning of everything.
So I do need to be vigilant as far as even for me to be able to change that and be better. And I'm pretty sure within 2 weeks, a week or two, I'll be able to feel the difference. But I do need to go to my cabinet and check what I'm cooking and what I'm putting in my system. Because they say you are what you eat, but it really is what it is. Like, you eat a banana, the banana becomes a part of you. This is an accumulation of food that you've eaten in many years over in your life. So it becomes your being. So all the other bad stuff that you've taken in, it's becoming you eventually, you know?
But they disguise good looking food that has no nutritional value or very minimal nutritional value. In my studies, in my journey in this lifestyle change, I had gone to one of the major food grocery stores that sells everything. And I bought these luscious, green, beautiful, healthy-looking, robust apples. I'm like, man, these are juicy. I can't wait. So I bought them, put them in there. Then I started getting into the organic, started doing more research on organic. So then I went to, I always get the name wrong. I just won't say the name. I just always forget it. 6 years, and I shop there all the time, and I can never get it right. I picture something different, and that's how I call it. So I went there and I bought organic apples. They looked nice. You know, they weren't the rock star of apples, but they were, I'm like, all right, a little bit more pricey.
They're not that shiny. They're smaller.
Yeah, they're a little bruised. Not much, but just a little. Brought them home. Oh, sorry. I tasted the apple. I was like, man, I remember how this is how apples used to taste. So I finished them like in 3 days. My kids did too. They devoured the apples. The other apple, we had like 5 apples left. And I'm like, nobody touched these. We're going to eat these. And in 3 days, we finished them. We bought some more. 2.5 weeks later, those apples are still sitting there.
They're still there.
And they look identical.
That's not okay.
No. I'm like, oh, I'm curious. So I cut into the apple, and it was very granular. Like, whoa, this is not good. So I'm like, we're no longer eating organic food. We need to see where we're buying our food from. That's because it says organic doesn't mean. Let's do a little research. So we did that. Chicken. My son cannot stand the smell of chicken. My wife cannot. She'll cook it because it's a healthy alternative. She'll cook it. She can't stand the smell of it. And it's not a COVID thing. It's just she can't stand the smell of it. I go to a farmer's market that they hold at the YMCA by our house. And I'm talking to this gentleman that's selling chickens or sells chicken. A little pricey. I'm like, wow, it's pretty pricey. Well, you know what? It's cage free. Range free. You know, what we do is they're on PVC pipes and it's caged still, but we move the cage around. They don't always eat in the same place every day, every other day. We're moving it to a different location. And if one chicken gets sick or chick, we isolate them and we only treat that one without antibiotics. And then the rest of the chickens, we'll treat them. He goes, when you usually buy from a larger group, they're saying it's organic because they're not feeding all of the chickens organic. But if one gets sick, they put it in drinking water for the chicks, and then you're not intentionally trying to put in antibiotics into these chicks, but because they're drinking from the same well or the same tire, they're getting the antibiotics.
There's so many of them. They can't just pick it by itself, the little chicken out of thousands, and single it out.
Right.
Unlike the smaller scale people.
Right.
They'll be able to do that.
And they do that.
Mm-hmm.
The chicken, the taste. I walked into the house, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what chicken used to smell like.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is, because my wife said, you're going to spend what on what? I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, you got us on this. You already got us on the journey. You haven't led us wrong. Let's see. She ate it. My son loved it. He ate the chicken. My wife didn't mind cooking that chicken. Then they didn't come for a month or two, and we tried a couple other places. Not as good. We went back to the store and bought one, and I'm like, we're never buying store-bought chicken again.
This is not the same. I appreciate you sharing that very much. I think it's super important to be able to know that, I mean, your health is your wealth, whether you want it or not. If you can't really do anything productive in life, anything at all whatsoever, if you don't have your health, because you can't move around, you're in discomfort, or you have to go to the doctor, or you have to consume more medicine or medication to just get going. And I don't think that's the way. So I appreciate it very much.
And the thing too is, I love to share this information. I brought so many people to this other side of and I say aisle, the aisle of unclean food and the aisle of unclean living to cleaner living or cleaner eating.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have stuck with it, and they feel better for it. I had a client that it was a journey from the time that we met, did their initial application because they wanted to buy a mortgage. They weren't ready at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we spoke a few times after, and then they were ready. And then about a year and a half later, we're sitting at the closing table. And this is not the only time, but that this occurred. But the client's like, Sal, wow, you lost a whole other person.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Sorry.
You're okay.
What are you doing? I'm like, I told them exactly what I explained to you. They did it. 4 months later, they call me like, Sal, I don't know, it's what you told us. We're pretty much following what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pregnant.
And they have been trying for some time to be
7 years.
7 years they've been trying to have a baby, and they haven't been able to. You kind of sort of share the information that you share with me as far as what made a difference for you, and now they were expecting at that time.
Right. At that time, and and now the child is bigger, and it's just, and that's, and I love to share this information. Mm-hmm. So when I tell people I eat more fat, not to be a jerk.
Yeah, it's not to be a jerk, not being. Okay, so real quickly, let's touch up on the story regarding mortgage. So if I understand it correctly, the reason why you got into mortgage is because your parents had a particular situation that happened that didn't go so well as far as purchasing a home, and you didn't like the outcome, and you didn't like exactly what happened. So that led you into doing it yourself and showing the other person that you were able to do it even better. And that almost 30 years later now, you're still doing your mortgage professional, and you're doing that. Is that how kind of sort of it went a little bit?
Do your homework, man. That's good.
A little bit.
So yeah, I mean, I referred my parents to a trusted advisor, trusted friend, not an advisor, but a trusted friend. And after closing, I started looking at their, at that time it was called a...
after closing. So it was already done.
It was done.
Mm.
I saw the RESPA statement, which tells you all your cost and the points that you pay. Points is a percentage of the loan amount to get a lower rate, or
the closing disclosure now at this day.
Closing disclosure, correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, wow, I compared this with other places. The
Yeah.
rate you gave them wasn't that great of a rate. You charged them 2 points to do this, and these costs. So I got upset. I'm like, I sent them to you because I trusted you,
Mm-hmm.
and you have defrauded me. I'm going to get into your business to show you that I can do it the right way and make more money than you can. A year later, I called her and I said, this is what I made. There's no way. I'm like, yeah. And I didn't do it the way you did. We haven't talked since. That was the last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got on this path of trying to help, especially my comunidad,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what you don't know.
True.
And usually in our community, they don't know about finances. They don't know about budgeting. They don't know the difference between points and not points. So when you come to see me, as you can tell, I love to talk. But when my clients come to see me,
Right.
or they call me, I explain, and ask if they understand. If not, we go back. An initial conversation just to discover if they, about inquiring about a mortgage. It may be an hour conversation because I explained the whole process and the different programs that might be available to them. And I'm like, okay. And that's before we even meet face to face, because I want them to know that they have options. And I said, you know what? You don't have to stay with me. And I explained the thing with credit and everything else. You can shop me around. Go with other people. See, you have a 30-day window to go inquire with other lenders. See which one gives you the better opportunity.
Right.
Or they come to me because they were somewhere else, and then I explained the whole situation. And the usual conversation is, did you understand everything? She's like, you explained everything fantastically. The other person just said, you don't qualify, didn't give me an option of how to try to build up to it. Or the other person told me that I could only go this one program. I'm like, no, you have options. I go, my job is to give you options. Your job is to select the best one for yourself. In some cases, there's only 2 options. You can buy now or buy later. Or you can't buy now, but you could buy later if you do these, these simple strategies or exercises to create your savings, to fix your credit, to eliminate some of the debt that you have.
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's do that. I'll call you every 3 months to see how you're doing. Some clients, 6 months, they're ready. Some clients in a year, they're ready. Some clients, it can be 12 years because something always comes up. Oh, una quinceañera. I'm like, well, what was more important? That $20,000 or $30,000 you spent on
$30,000 or more.
Yeah, on that party, or the down payment on your home. Oh, I had to buy a new car. Wasn't your car like a 2017? Yeah, but I needed a new truck, and I'm like, that's great. So your mortgage payment now is $1,500.
So your DTI is not good.
Your debt to income ratio is way up.
The ratio is up.
I'm just like, well, I hope you enjoy driving by the house that could have been your home, right?
Check back in. What is it now? 7 years or 5 years they do like the loans now for trucks or vehicles.
Yeah.
It's so expensive.
Exactly. It's just like, but we talk to them. I don't say that to them, but it's just like, that's what I want to say to them. Like,
but
yeah,
you hope they would take your advice as the reason why you want to do those things,
right?
Because that it's like a plan that you have that it is going to lead them to purchasing a home,
right?
If they do the things that you told them to in steps,
Yeah,
but you're right. There's other things that really do pop up sometimes as far as like life in general. And
right.
Stuff like
Well, I mean, those are legitimate. But sometimes, oh, I haven't taken a vacation in 5 years. Well, that's great. I'm so sorry that you haven't been able to. But why don't you buy your home, create those memories, make it yours.
Yeah.
Show your family the pride of ownership, right? Show your family that, hey, this is a stepping stone to a better future. Vacations are going to come. They may not remember the vacation, right? But they'll remember, hey, remember that one time that your dad showed you how to cut some wood to fix something in the house.
You can have a staycation.
Yeah, staycation. But these are things that people ask, what is homeownership? That's what we ask in our show. What does homeownership mean for you? To you, because the homeownership has a different meaning to everybody.
Right.
To me, the stability of your home, showing my kids the pride of owning a house, the if I have a birthday party, remember, like right now I'm thinking of my daughters and because they're similar. She was dressed in her little Anna outfit from like Frozen. Her friends were dressed like little princesses.
Yeah.
And, this little princess is like wailing on the piñata with his hand, she looked like a professional baseball player.
Right.
Hitting. But these are memories that were in my backyard, right? I was cooking the ribs, these massive ribs on a wood burning grill, and my neighbors came over like, wow, it smells great. I'm like, hey, come on over, in my house. You're my guest, right? So I'm creating memories there. Do I remember some vacations? Yeah. But what I'm remembering is how I made my family feel at home. And, we had Christmas at the house. We opened our gifts at the house. Hey, I showed my kid how to paint a room in there. My wife, I have pictures of my wife wanting to do wood flooring. She never did wood flooring before. And I have pictures of her and my son cutting on the saw, on the horse. What do you call it?
The little wooden horse?
The wooden horses. Yeah, cutting the wood.
Rocking horse? I don't know what it's called, to be honest.
I forgot the name of it. And so she borrowed one of my neighbor's little sawzalls, and she made all the angles.
Wow.
Her and my son. I'm sure he's going to carry that for years, right? My father-in-law was putting up a fence, and my son at 5 or 6 years old is there helping him. My other son is helping him, take all the nails out from like the plant. These are memories you're creating.
Yeah.
So that's what I want for other people, especially in our comunidad, because, I can't afford that. I don't have the 20% down. That's for somebody else that makes a lot more money than me. Let me continue this perpetual misconception of you have to rent because you're not one of them.
So whenever they come to you, if somebody that just decided to begin to see about purchasing, not only do you tell them and guide them, you educate them, and you let them know that even though at that moment you might not qualify for X reason, but you give them a game plan to 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, that if you get into this path, that you might be able to do that and generate those kinds of memories. Right. Is that kind of sort of how you work?
Exactly.
Because there is all kinds of, I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly the reason why that person did that to your parents. I don't know if it was malice or just want to get a quick payoff.
It's just, it wasn't, I don't believe it was malice. It was like, I can make money.
And that's it.
I have a lifestyle to support, and I have to, I have to charge. I'm sure they weren't the only ones they do this to, right?
Yeah. But it sucks that they were friends of yours.
Right.
You know what I mean? Take care of my people.
Well, now you're saying if it's fair lending, I guess they treat everybody the same way. So
so now it's fair lending. Okay, so you also a part of the Hispanic Real Estate Brokers Association,
right?
Inc. So, association. I didn't know that there was such a thing. What did they exactly do you focus on? What do you do?
We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Mm-hmm. So we provide quality financial education to the low and moderate income communities. And then we also help educate the real estate professional to better serve our communities.
Mm-hmm.
We don't only help the Hispanic community, we help everybody. Our organization is made up of over 300 members, where real estate agents, loan officers, title companies, inspectors, photographers, you name it, we're all encompassing of all different businesses that incorporate insurance agents that have something to do with real estate, which is vast, right? So we're out in the community, providing information.
Mm-hmm.
We do a radio show, the Reba Show, Hear It From the Experts. I was going to get into the introduction that we normally do every week. It's just embedded in me now. We've been doing it for 5 years.
Nice.
And we bring quality information regarding home ownership, all aspects of home ownership. We'll have the directors of like TSHAC, the Texas State Affordable Corporation. Yeah, Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation.
Housing Corporation.
And then TDHCA, Texas Department of Housing and Consumer Affairs, will actually have the directors come in or Skype in, and they'll inform our listeners, our residents, our citizens of the programs available to them regarding down payment assistance and what a mortgage credit certificate is and how it can help them not just at the closing, and how it can help them qualify at the closing, but also over the years, throughout the years as they maintain this mortgage that they just financed, or home that they financed with that down payment assistance. So I am blessed to have to be a part of this organization. I've been with it 5 years. I've been the community outreach director.
So you're serving the board now?
I serve on the board. I'm actually I'm actually a director. I am the incoming chairman for next year. But for the past, chairman, I always say director. For the past 5 years, I've been the community outreach chairman for that.
So you go out in the community and reach out to people and let them know what kind of services you do. And if for anybody that's interested in finding out more, where do they need to go?
They can go to REBA, and REBA spelled HREBA, REBAconnect.org. You can go to the website there. You know, we have different events. We have, for the professionals that want to learn more of the organization, they can go in there. We participate in a lot of community events. Recently, we were with the public library for the city of Arlington and the recreation center. We were there at their Dia de los Niños. At the East Library. We were there. We were providing information, telling about the show. We pair up with the Arlington Charities at their food bank there, and we'll give a class on homeownership. It's a series of 4 modules given by different real estate professionals to the community. So, you know, we're out there just trying to promote financial literacy. We're trying to we're out there trying to let them know that there are options, that you don't have to rent because you feel that you can't qualify, or you don't know what you don't know until you know you don't know.
Yes.
Right.
And then for the consultations for you to maybe just curious about it, they can reach to you or is it a free consultation that y'all do? As far as just, you know, they're curious, they want more information.
Regarding the organization or
buying a home or regarding the organization.
There is no cost to get a 5-minute or an hour explanation of what it takes to purchase a home, right? It doesn't, you know what, I'm not ready right now. I just want to know what I need to do. Sometimes they find out they are ready. Sometimes you have people that say, well, I'm ready to buy a home, and they're not ready. But we get them on that track. The thing is to help them find a way to buy their home, and not just any home. You know, let's shoot for the home that you want, within reason, right? You shouldn't limit yourself. Sometimes, you know, you have 2 options. This is the home you can afford right now, or if you continue to do these certain activities, this may be the home you want to buy, and it may take you longer to do it, but that may be it. But in the meantime, you need to understand that you are paying a rent, and if you're paying that rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage instead of your own. You can still buy this home. Maybe it's not your dream home, but it's a step-up home. And when you sell it, and if you do it right, you're going to get some equity, which you can use then to parlay it into the down payment for your new home.
The one you wanted.
That one you wanted. And it's not a question of buying the house, your forever home now. Build up to it, you know, learn how to take care of a smaller home before you go to a bigger home. It's a responsibility.
That is responsibility.
Yeah.
Additional things that you have to pay just to maintain a home, taxes and everything else.
Right. And then within our organization, we have so many different professionals, and I mean professionals, experts in their field, that, you know, when I feel that we do offer a lot of services. My company offers a lot of different programs. We have quick turnaround times. We do a lot, but we're not great at every program. Just like every other lender is not great at every other program. So sometimes within our organization, we know our strengths and we know the strengths of our other competitors. And if we feel that that other competitor can better serve that client, I'm not losing a client. I'm gaining a customer for life because they know I have their interest at heart, that I'm referring them to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much are you going to make? I'm like, I'm not making anything. I want you to buy your home, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. Juan is going to be able to help you.
That's appreciated because, like, there is people that want to make the quick buck and hurry up and just get them through and whatever it is. But I appreciate your approach and the fact that you're not only are you involved with a nonprofit, but as a loan officer, you're willing to educate the people, and not to mention get them to, even if I'm not able to do it because I don't have the programs, you know, the person, or you have the network to send them to the right person to still fulfill their dream of owning the home, or on the steps to get to owning the home that they want.
Right.
So I that's appreciated because there's a lot of funny things sometimes when it comes to mortgage and loan officers. Sometimes loan officers get a rep of not really being caring or understanding, or it's all about the numbers, sorry about closings and things like that. And sometimes it's not about that.
And it's a bad rap because there's a lot of us in the organization, and not just in the organization, but in the industry that aren't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have colleagues that, hey, I got this. Well, I can't do it, but, Joe over here can't do it. Or, you know what, we can do it, but we're going to require a little bit more down payment. Boom. Or they'll say, you know what, Sal, I can't help you, but call Sal. He may be able to help you. They'll send him over. We're not afraid. It's not we're losing business. We're gaining a good reputation, which will then give us more business. So some of them that could have been my clients, and I refer them somewhere else, they still come back to me later on when they want to refer somebody, or and I don't ask them to do that. They refer their sons or their daughters or their compadres, whoever. Hey, go talk to Sal. He'll take care of you.
Yeah, because you build the trust with them that even though you were not able to serve them at that moment, they still have the trust in you because of what you did for them that you didn't have to.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they still trust what you know and your knowledge.
Right. And the same thing with my referring partners.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're extensions of each other. Whatever they do, I do indirectly because I was the one that referred them to them, and vice versa.
Gotcha.
So, you fly with the eagles, you soar with the eagles.
You soar with the eagles. Okay, we're running short on time.
Sorry, man. I love to talk.
No, you good. I appreciate it. All the information was great. I know that you're a wealth of information as far as mortgage, as far as lending, as far as loan officer. If anybody was to reach you, if anybody has a question and to reach you,
Mm-hmm.
where can they get a hold of you, social media or everything else?
All right. So if they need to get a hold of me, they can call me at my cell. I still have this number for the last 20 years, so I'm not going to change it for the next 20. So that's 708-860-1135. Again, 708-860-1135. My email is my full name, Salvador.Villalobos, and that's VILLALOBOS.com. And then my website's a little shorter, and it's Salvador, SALVADOR, V as in Victor, dot S as in Sam, W, M as in Mary, C dot, no, SWMCretail.com. And that's my website.
And the social media, do you use any of the social medias, whether it be
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't use Tinder.
No.
Just kidding.
For homes? We need one of those.
Yes. And yeah, that's about it. I mean,
okay.
And you can get, I post a lot of information, a lot of content of the different programs.
Awesome.
Out there.
And then if anybody is there any REVA events coming up soon here in the near future that people might be interested that they can go?
Well, on June 24th, we are teaming up with the city of Arlington. I think this is our 4th year that we're helping with their homeownership fair. So we're going to have different classes regarding the different levels of homeownership. Some people can't buy now, but they can learn what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're teaming up with the city of Arlington to do that. past few years, I've helped with the because it falls under my committee, the community outreach. We've been able to, even with the pandemic, we were able to still do the English and in Spanish virtual, and we're going to do the same this. We did that last year. We teamed up also with Canales and the city of Arlington, and we held the Homeownership Fair there, and we're doing it again June 24th.
June 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's going to be at the East Library, over on York Street.
Here in Arlington, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any shout outs? Do you have any shout outs?
Shout outs to my family, first and foremost, to my Reba family, Leticia, Rosa, Vanessa. I mean, to everyone. I mean, there's just so many.
So many. I'm pretty sure you have a large network.
Yeah, and I need some more.
Oh, you know who you are. Yeah, shout out to you.
So, Leticia, the CEO, Marty Martinez, they're the founders. To my co-host Alex, just to to my Riva family and to my NARUP family too, National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, Fort Worth chapter, and all the chapters actually. Another great organization that's out there, promoting homeownership as well.
Awesome. And what is an important lesson that you learned in your early professional career or realtor career that you would tell your younger self that would help somebody else? What would that be?
If you don't know the answer, be upfront. Let them know that you don't know the answer. Let me find that answer for you. Don't pretend that you know something when you don't.
Honesty is key.
Yeah, be transparent. That's the key thing.
Awesome. And one of the last questions I have is it's mostly a saying for me whenever I wake up or sometime during the day. I say a saying that I heard from this guru guy. I'm not immortal. I am mortal, and I will die one day. Not to scare me or anything like that or bring terror to me, but to realize that we're not here forever for a long time. However, with that, when everything's said and done, I wish you a long, prosperous life. However, when everything's said is done, what do you hope people to think or feel about your life?
Honestly, I guess if you would ask this to my 20 or 30 or 40-year-old self, it would be a different answer. Right now, I really don't care what people would think. It's just, how have I left this world? Did I leave it a better place, right? That's like the general answer, right? But
Absolutely.
No, truly, did I give my kids the tools that they needed? Are they following with the passionate heart? Mm-hmm. Today, my son sent me a text saying that they were going to do a walkout in gun violence. I'm like, gun violence is only the end result of another cause. You need to find out what that cause is. Gun violence is a broad subject. You need to define it. Yeah, and you need to break it down as to what is causing the gun violence. It's mental health, broken homes, socioeconomic disparity. There's so many different reasons. And going out to the street, all you're saying is, we're a bunch of kids that don't want to be in school. That's what I would see. And I'm like, if I was you, I would do it a little differently. Through discourse, respectful, civil, peaceful discourse. And you need to do it in a manner that is getting the attention of the people that really need to know this. So what I want to leave behind is ripples of my morals and principles through my kids.
Yeah.
And through the people that I work with.
I think the food has a lot with the mental connections with it. There's a reason why you're foggy sometimes when you don't eat clean, and then when you are clean, eat. To me, I just feel like, I'm not a scientist, but I feel they all go hand in hand. It's just a small part, but it's part of that issue that we have, guns and other stuff. That's just a little bit of it. But you're right. It's a good thing to narrowed it down to something that is more efficient for your kid to make a bigger impact. And I love that. The ripple with your kids, live it. That's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you very much for being here, Sal. I appreciate you very much. Again, with your show being which I do, the information you pass on, the lives you got touched, the reason why you got into doing mortgage and the reason why you decided it wasn't okay to do that. And now trickles down to you helping families and really educating them to have a home that they can build memories. And that's to me is amazing. And with your show that I'm pretty sure does globally, you definitely are a global Latin factor. So Sal, you're a global Latin factor. Thank you very much.
Can I bring one other thing up?
Absolutely,
Sorry.
absolutely.
So it's not just the parents. I was actually asked to do a career day at one of the grammar schools a few years back. And I walked in there and not really putting a lot of thought into it. I walked in there and I'm like facing a room full of first graders. I'm like, what am I going to teach these first graders about a mortgage? What are they going to comprehend about a mortgage?
Yeah.
So I brought it back to my kids, how I taught them about saving and not spending all of their money and credit and, what credit is in the age group. Because I've been doing that with my kids since pequeñitos, right? So, and I applied that same measure of how I taught them throughout the years or the grades. And every teacher, after I gave the presentation, came back and they said, I wish I would have learned that at this age. And that's first through fifth. I don't think I would be in the situation I am now. Each teacher. Because I brought that to the kids and the kids were engaged and I asked them questions and they got the gist of it.
That's awesome.
So on the 19th, I was asked this month again to do so. So it's very important that we do. And this time I see it, there's more professionals. So I think they understand the importance of getting real estate and mortgage financing, mortgage professionals to give a career day because it is about that.
Yeah.
It is about teaching them at a young age. My daughter, real quick, sorry, you can edit this. My daughter, I was bringing her from home one day. I picked her up. We were walking home, and she's like, "Dad, can I borrow some money?" I'm like, "Hey, what do we talk about borrowing money?" And she's like, "But I want to buy this." I'm like, "You have your own money." And she's like, "No, Dad, but I want to buy a building. So if I'm going to buy a building, I can't spend my own money. I need to make that. What do you call it? RO something or Y?" And I'm like, "ROI." Yeah, that, Dad. I need to make that. So they're listening to what we're saying.
Yeah.
She was 7 years old and she's talking about buying a multifamily building because she hears my conversations with a lot of single moms who are head of that family. And I usually try to help them buy a multifamily building so that they don't have to, because some cases they need that extra rent to help them make those mortgage payments to live in the areas that they want to live in. I have a young lady who was making $62,000 a year, helped her buy a 3-unit building. Now she's on her 4th unit fourth multifamily building.
Wow.
So it all started from there. So now she's teaching her kids that. And I've been able to help other moms with that. And that's been the catapult for them to buy other investment properties. But they're not buying as investment properties, they're buying as their primary residence. And then once they have enough, then they move on to another property while still keeping those or selling that to buy others. Okay. So real estate can be a catapult to a different life.
Yeah. Not to mention the teaching method that you were able to implement for the kids to be able to understand and be able to know, even though as small kids, to be able to kind of sort of already start seeing it and kind of see it like, oh, that's how it works. Because they hear all the adult conversations, but sometimes it doesn't, all those things don't click yet. But then whenever you break it down into the way that you told them, then it kind of makes more sense.
Like credit cards. Hey, kids, do you want to, oh yeah, credit cards, you can buy everything. I'm like, okay, but did you understand that, okay, like when my kids, we go to the grocery store and they want to buy a candy and they don't have the money or a toy, Dad, can I borrow some? I'm like, we don't borrow. Okay, I'm going to lend you the money, but when you get home, you have to pay me. And if it goes till tonight and I have to ask for it, it's going to be another 50 cents on top of that. And if it goes to the next day, I'm not going to remind you anymore. And the next day, it's going to go up another 25 cents. And then by the end of the week, if you haven't paid me, it's going to go double of what you borrowed. As soon as they get home, they pay it because they don't want to pay that. But these kids didn't have that. I'm like, and that's what a credit card is.
Yeah.
They're not bad as long as you pay them off as soon as you get that bill. It has to be paid off in full. If not, you're going to be paying more. They didn't realize that. They're like, oh, so are you going to be using credit cards? Not if I don't have the money, one kid said.
Yeah.
I only helped that one kid.
That's awesome. I appreciate it very much.
No. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. Remember to subscribe, and remember, we are just like you. We are people. Until next time, thank you very much. Thank you very much for checking out another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. Make sure you go and subscribe to the channel. You are very important, and it means a lot to us whenever you go and subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notifications whenever we have new episodes. It really does truly mean a lot to us. Thank you very much.
What is de la Vigo? Walks like a pero but in fact is a flamingo. Coming to Havana and reach from Puerto Rico. On a pirate ship, you don't know where do we go. The birds of the jungle chasing fortune and fame, but Juan...